I just heard you spell it wrong.
Ready? 3. So okay. All right, this is my so welcome everybody. We have fairly portion of these I've got a few updates that we're currently during those. But we do have a water bill our first item of business. Probably better than here in the back. Oh, you hear what good the people are right now. Yeah, yeah. Present. Present. Here. Next, we need to do that. Meeting. That we also need to carve out a little bit of time to schedule our next meeting. I make a motion for those amendments. So amended. We can go ahead and yeah, I did. I know. So you've already got that one yellow thing?
Yeah. Okay. There was 2 items that were contract is that $1,000. The other item is, I think that down. No. 7.
A little bit over. Does anybody? The question mark there is highlighted, so I think we can accept these. I think it's a little long. Yeah, I mean, either way, you just break the dollar amount, you say two separate concepts, multiple concepts. But according to my notes, it is correct. Yeah. I'll take a look at the part. Right. Our next item, ninth, remember. Don't be shy. Stand right here, wherever you want.
Well, thanks for the opportunity for public comments tonight. Notice that the agenda to the calculation of the water rate, how water rates are calculated in our city. So I thought that this would be a great opportunity to underscore the drive and the petition campaign that was launched all last year, signatures gathered in order to establish a water affordability. There's nothing new. And it's something to do because we're the great fears in the nation, which is sad considering we've been in a water crisis and so forth. And so we know that there's a lot of rescue plan money here and different things like that. But what we're is that the residents of Flint deserve some relief on our water bills. This is what we need. And I feel that this committee should be weighing in on that notion. There are experts around who've been brought into other cities. Roger Colton, he's an expert. And what we're saying is water rates should be tied to ability to pay. Water rates should be tied to ability to pay, not your usage. And that's a revolutionary concept, but it's one the United Nations advocates, who say that I believe it's 1 or 2% of your income max should be paid for water. So this is not some new out of the dropped out of the sky concept. And if there's a city in this country that needs and deserves something along those lines, it's Flint. We need financial relief, we need recovery relief, and the water affordability plan is just what is needed at this time. We've got the rescue money, we got this, that, we're coming out of a water crisis. We're not out of it yet. We should be able to feel some recovery, and the water affordability is such a notion that can give the residents some relief. And we also petition that there should not be shutoffs. If we, who doesn't say that water is a human right? We hear that so much. Well, if it's a human right, then everybody should have water. Then how do we make that happen? And so people say that the Philadelphia experience, if you want to look into it, and they said, oh, people not going to pay their bills and this, that, and the other. They got more payments because the rates were reduced than they did before. It's a very successful program. People do want to pay their bills. They'll take one or two people who don't pay their bills and ascribe everybody to that situation. And that's just not true. And so, take a thing.
I'm having kind of a follow-up. Dr. Reynolds and I both sat, both of us were appointed by a prior governor who got fond of to sit on a water rate group at the state level. We were joined by experts from Michigan State University, and clearly,
And Roger Colton.
yeah, some other folks that knew about that. And we clearly recommended exactly what you're saying. That water, there should be a basic level of water for every human being to live on, regardless of their ability to pay. And there should be a water rate. That's been recommended countless times, not just by us, but by administrative representation. What we've been told is that's against the law in Michigan because the statute and legal precedents will not allow that to happen. That is not it is not a matter of our desire not to have that. It's a matter of judgments made by the Michigan Supreme Court specific to utility rates that disallow that. And what we've been told is the only way to address the situation you're suggesting is the legislature has to make that change. And so we would need what I would describe as conservative legislators, not any that live in the Flint area, to be willing to see the value of exactly what you're saying. So I don't know, speaking as a water advisory council or whatever you call yourself, like I would have no problem making a recommendation of exactly what you're saying, but I don't believe it will have any effect because we don't have the ability to make that rule even if we want. That would be my only comment, because I exactly 100% agree with exactly what you're saying. Yeah, I just want to.
Is there anyone else who wishes to make public comment?
So, well, first of all, hi, everybody. My name is Roy Fields Senior. I'm a resident of the city of Flint. I'm having some problems with my water. Been tracking this situation for about 2.5 years, where I hang this brush over my shower head, and clockwork every 4 to 6 weeks it will turn black. I had an occasion to talk with a member of mayor's staff about this situation, and they did send out a water department. And let me back up. Anyway, I'm just going to tell you the truth. Me and my wife were suffering some health effects from this. Found it to be black mold. So, I shared that with the gentleman from the water department. He told me, he came in, we tested the water for chlorine, and he also said that the city wasn't prepared to test for mold or I think he said coli and some other bacteria, but not specifically for mold. And I said, well, okay, well, anyway, he got to see the mold firsthand. He saw it coming out of the faucets in the bathtub, the sink, and he'd go in the kitchen. But he saw it, and I got pictures here. And I'm sorry, Miss Lewis, I didn't take the picture. I was supposed to draw the pictures, but I thought you said Thursday. But anyway, it showed clearly, the picture showed clearly that the mold is coming out of pipes. And that young man told me, he said, well, listen, you didn't see any black mold on the walls or anything, as you say, because it could be coming out of the walls and going in pipes. And I thought, wow, that didn't make sense, but I'm not an expert, you know? So I said, well, you know, look at the walls. There isn't any black mold on the walls or anything like that. So please help me. I want to know. We need to know what to do here. So I did send a text to one of the mayor's aides, and they sent out a gentleman from the building inspector's office, and I believe his title was health and safety inspection, along with an assessor. And he came in and he saw all that the other young man saw, how mold had built up around the faucets in the bathtub and in this bathroom and into the kitchen. Well, anyway, I took the filters down. You can see the black mold. Uh, you know, upside down pictures of the faucet. You can see the black mold build up between the faucet and the filter configuration, for lack of a better term. Okay. Well, anyway, Ken told me, he said, listen, let's do this. Have you ever checked the back of the toilet bowl? I said, no, I've never looked in there. I never had any reason to look in it. He said, well, that would tell you if this mold is in the water and or it's in your hot water tank. You know, it could be that. But listen, when they dug up my front yard, I kept my front yard, changed it myself, and I kept it because just kept it. But anyway, like I said, we've been having this problem for a very long time. I don't know what's happened here in the last couple of months, but it's got worse than I've ever seen before. The brush had white bristles, they're black, thick black color. And he said, okay, after I took the thing to my wife had on the toilet bowl thing there. He said, see that? Black mold on the water thing, you know, whatever mold goes down into your toilet thing to fill it up. Build up black mold there. So that says that it's coming out of the water supply, not the hot water tank, cold water. In addition to that, he also shared with me his knowledge of what black mold, how to say survive it, but he told me, he said, listen, if you take a shower using this shower head with the buildup we see on this brush here, you're inhaling that black mold. And I Googled that. I Googled a website that pulled up pictures just like when I, but then I Googled the side effects of black mold due to violence. One of those, well, a couple of them was persistent cough. Persistent cough for over 6 weeks, both me and my wife. And it said arthritis and inflammation. My left hand and arm was swollen for about a month. As soon as it went down, my right elbow. So I had the symptoms that this website described as being, you know, contributing, you know, being part of black mold. Well, anyway, called the EPA. But they did receive my message, and they said they forwarded it to the state of Michigan. So I'm still waiting on a response from them. What bothers me is today, the young man from the water department pissed my wife off by giving her a thing saying that she wasn't cleaning up the bathroom right to prevent this black mold. And it calls out some things that you're supposed to do. And she was very upset about that. She didn't tell me. And so I called a message for one of the mayor's aides, and I had to call her back to apologize because I am a follower of Christ Jesus, and I didn't swear at her, but I was upset. You know, I was upset and very offended by this and his attitude. there's a disconnect between the water department and the inspectors. This gentleman is saying, okay, this is nothing. This is something that you can do. This is routine. It's just a matter of house maintenance, cleanliness. That's a lie. That's a lie. That's why I'm here. And like I said, my biggest concern is I can only speak for myself in this instance because I'm here. But I did take the time to talk to some of my neighbors, and they're experiencing the same thing that I'm going through. And that's not a coincidence. You know? So I'm basically here to say, please, I don't want us to have to wait 2 or 3 years to say, well, geez, we should have done something. Those kids have been affected by black mold in the water, and we were trying to figure it out. Well, we know what it is now. And it's time for somebody to take some action. Thank you.
This is where we can ask questions.
I'm sorry, I don't hear too well.
Mr. Fields, can you share the street you and your neighbors live on?
I'm gonna have to sit over here.
Oh.
Hear what you're saying.
What's the name of your street?
Brownell Boulevard. I stay in the 3600 block of Brownell Boulevard. What part of it?
North by North by.
Well, it's between Pasadena and Sunny. You know where Pasadena is? A couple of blocks from Plowell Road. If you go up Plowell Road headed towards, if you go up Pasadena headed towards Plowell Road, it'll be that flashing light there. You turn right, and that's the 3600 block of Brownell Boulevard.
And did they ever give you your chlorine levels? Any report on that?
This gentleman from the water department told me I would have their report calling from whatever lab that they use. I would have it. I asked him for it today. I said, well, where's the report you promised me Friday? He said, my supervisor's got it and he didn't give it to me. So I don't know. I'm not sure about a lot of this stuff. Listen, let me say this. The human element is in play here. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a citizen of the city of Flint, and I have been adversely affected by this water recently. And for the life of me, trying to get somebody to pay attention to what I'm saying. Hey, I show you the pictures. I will show you pictures that are on my phone that I took, that I sent to the different people. And this gentleman sent me a voicemail saying, we checked everything, the chlorine levels are just fine, and we didn't find any black sludge or anything in the water or anything like that. And I'm thinking, okay, well, but you don't test for mold. But then he ended that by saying, but the water's safe to drink. And I know that's bullshit. Well, excuse me, but I know it is, and I can't figure out in this time in our city, after all that we've been through, why would he even, how could he find the nerve to say something like that to me? I've showed this to everybody that I believe that, could give me some input. And then I said, well, he said the water is safe to drink after seeing these pictures, after him personally seeing it, not the pictures. He saw it in person. And he said, well, here, you want to hear it? Do you want to hear it? I'd like for you to hear it. I'd like to hear just what I heard.
And did he identify himself?
Yes, he did.
filing a complaint.
Well, that's basically what he was saying. And yes, but my strategy is a little different than what you said. I want to call the police. I want to call the sheriff and file a complaint because this is serious. This is serious. My health has been affected, seriously affected by not just this occasion, but the previous one. And I'm on the maximum amount of drugs that they can give me just so I can be here. And today I had to use this cane to make it here. And I want for nobody else to suffer like this. This is senseless. I expected this morning to get up and see on breaking news, okay, we got a water advisory on the north side of the city of Flint. Please, whatever you can do to mitigate this type of affliction, do it. Let's do something here. Or I guess there's the part of me that's saying right now, why do we have to wait for people to come down with these afflictions and then take notice? Here's his recorded message to me.
Returning a call. Like,
No, and I'd like to point this out too. In this conversation, this voicemail, he said that they found no black sludge. They make any reference to mold or anything like that. But in this, he's saying, "Hey, now this is this is what you do to clean up mold." So now, does that make sense? Does that make sense? You're telling me in voicemail, the part that really saddened me was the water's safe to drink. And I'm gonna just show you one picture of it.
Don't know before.
This is the faucet in my bathtub. And you can see, I didn't know, I don't, I'm not a professional photographer. I just held the phone down there and I took a picture upside down. That shows the mold on side of the faucet, and it's inside the faucet. And he's telling me it's coming off the mold, off the walls and growing up inside the faucet. And I know that's bullshit. I know it is.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
Taking off a filter?
I took off the filters here. I'll show you that picture
That's
too.
okay. Where was the filter? Is it on your shower? Or
The filters are on the sink in the bathroom and the sink in the kitchen.
Okay.
And between, and where they connect together I'll show you what that looks like.
Oh, I believe you. I just want to make sure.
I want you to see it though.
All right.
I want you to see this because like I said, he saw this and this was his explanation to it and that still bothers me. That's what, after I took the filter off, that's what the faucet looked like upside, I took it from the bottom. That's what you could see, the black mold there. You can see it.
Before it ran through the filter.
And I'm gonna have to ask y'all to forgive me because I'm normally not this way, but I'm bothered by this. I'm bothered by this because like I said, geez, I'm heavily invested on the north side now, and the water's safe to drink, and it's not. The water's making me sick, and nobody seems to give a shit, you know?
We here,
So, thank you for your time. That is what I had to say.
Thanks very much. Um, one thing that we do as a council is follow up directly with the director of public works uh, around we can uh, make sure that facilities. I'm more than happy to follow up with them in times of problem. But beyond that,
I want to just share, and thank you, Mr. Fields, for coming, but I do want to just share the importance of this public comment. It is extremely important. You are one voice to have courage to come and speak out. But as you mentioned, there may be others in your neighborhood experiencing the same thing, just haven't got the courage to speak out.
May I share something with you though? And the reason for it is there are renters in my block. And when I asked them and told them, they acknowledged this. They see it, but they said, well, wait a minute, man. If I say anything, I'm gonna get evicted and I have nowhere to go, you know?
So that's again where I was, thank you for sharing it. There are reasons why people don't have, it's not just a courage that they don't speak out, because there are other ramifications. Your speaking out helps give us some information that's necessary. We're not able to solve all the issues. We can't make these rules or hard, fast, necessary requests that are going to make some law change or policy change immediately. But it is raising that awareness that this crisis, though many people say the water crisis isn't over, people are still feeling the impact of it. There's still fear about using the water. And what you're raising here was probably before, but it's still a problem now. And so I thank you for coming and courage to come and sharing with us. And we'll do what we can to elevate this. That's why again, we're asking our community members to come out. We don't have a place that's big enough necessarily for everybody to come out in a social distance way. But those who will come out, these voices are extremely important. So we thank you. We'll do what we can to help.
I'd like to thank you for that and say, just like I told them, I said, listen, I've done what God put in my heart to do, you know, and I've done that now. So I'm satisfied that I put it to the people that, you know, that are in a position to make a decision as to just which way to go. But I wanted you to hear it firsthand, to see it firsthand. You know, I'm not just saying this. This is happening right now. And like I said, I don't know what's happening over to the water department. I'm insulted by his action. In fact, I requested he never come to my house again, you know, because that don't make sense. Listen, I'd like to thank you. I got your message late. I left you a voicemail, but I'm headed back home. I out of bed to come here because I wanted you to hear this. Okay. Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to share. Please have a safe and wonderful evening. God bless.
oh, like, oh, sorry. I get it. I
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay. Fire open.
Yeah. Well, so we can.
Oh, wow. Shut up moratorium. Response to my prayer. I think we should talk about that.
Well, I was thinking that I want to we have time to not only hear from our sector today, but to discuss what's presented. And I was thinking that we could address. But then that has nothing to do with the mold, suspected mold problem. Uh, I would recommend, number one, to find out who Mr. Field City Council person is. And he should share that information and we can share it for him. The other thing is number two, the ombudsman.
I think it's the bill.
Would there need to be a motion regarding that?
Well, right now, I'm making suggestions that, and so the other thing is the ombudsman should know about this if there can be no resolution in a timely manner. And lastly, the Water Service Advisory Council can appeal directly to the state Eagle if an issue is not addressed. So those are things that can be done. And maybe they should be on, there's no timeline for when these things should be done, but it needs to be expedited. Because it may not be the only complaint. Today is Monday. He didn't say he received anything in writing report. He was told early this week, so if he gets a report, it would be good if he will allow us to have a copy of that report. And then chlorine is the same every day in the water. It's dependent on the temperature. So we just don't know what the water flow is in that neighborhood. I haven't been through there in a while to see how many actual customers are on the block. What's the residual time of water on that block? If there are any stuck valves. These are all the things that the water department needs to ask. And if there's a leakage from the water mains to the service line, if something leaks out, potentially something else can leak out. Not knowing the status of all those things, a big question. Sounds like we need a form that we can fill out and keep a record. So I'm wondering if perhaps we can kind of write a narrative and maybe incorporate a picture, audio that has and send that to Councilman Lewis. You can send that to the ombudsperson. You can also send that to Director Brown. Appropriate. Sounds like not very happy with the way it's been by the water utility up to this point. Understand So, if you got those other people more promising, um, do we want to turn that into a formal? Motion?
I turned it into a formal motion.
And the motion to-
That we have a standard form where we get name, address, contact information, city council person and ward, that we outline next steps, after notifying the city council person, the water department, city council person, the ombuds person, and then notifying Eagle. Now, what I don't know is the timeline, but at least if we move it through those steps and have a date when it's completed, we can send it to the State Water Service Advisory Council.
I have a question, to make sure, sorry, I put that briefly. I just want to make sure that he obviously came during public comment, revealed this information. I do want to make sure that any information that shared, he knows is going to be shared publicly.
Yes,
What I'm worried about happening is we share, this public, and then more information shared with us, that becomes voyable, and then the public may. So I think we just have to make sure
Be very clear about that
yeah, we have to be very clear about
is voyable.
that's a point that would require we have some confidentiality clause. This, the problem is, if someone comes, we have to know that they're a City of Flint resident. That's number one. We do need a telephone number for the follower. We don't have to share that information necessarily, but there should be some confidentiality statement that we will only share this information with your permission. As far as keeping it from becoming public, this is a public setting.
yeah, that's fine. I want to make sure we are clear to residents what is confidential and what's public.
We have a motion on the floor. I don't.
Oh, I'd say add a confidentiality clause to the form so the person can opt in or opt out of having this information shared. The statement should also say, if you do not allow us to share this information, it will make it hard to resolve this issue.
Is it public information or is it written on a piece of paper that we can access that?
Well, it's
I don't
public
know.
information now. It's being filmed and broadcast. I mean, video and broadcast.
Yeah,
But I think even so there you're talking about
Yes.
form available at these meetings, maybe online as well, where residents can fill it out, whatever their issue is, be collected, be followed up on. If that's the case, I think that any information obtained that way would be subject to.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's.
like there couldn't be a confidentiality clause because once it was written, it is what it is. But it would seem that folks are coming here to share that information with us. And I would say we would want it something because then we can hand that to the person because we have no power to actually change anything directly, but we have the power to put that in the hands of those who might have the power to change things, right?
Well, just let the person say, no, I don't want anything on paper. Yes, I do, and I don't mind it being shared. Because beyond what Dr. McElmurray has said, don't let the mortgage companies get a hold of that, or somebody applying for a home improvement loan, or your home insurance person, and they will use it to redline the property in a heartbeat. But they've already done it.
So, Dr. Russell, my problem is I don't even prevent that. So I think we just have to be upfront that this is you're sharing this publicly. Be aware.
Maybe maybe it's not a confidentiality clause, it'd be more like an acknowledgement clause, that, you know, by sharing this, that this will remain available to the public.
Yeah, I don't know.
Could be something we could ask the city legal for something or not, but I like the idea of having a reporting format. I think I can fully support that.
Have a second.
Second.
Okay, have a second. All in favor of creating a reporting form? Say aye.
Aye.
So now the question is,
So I just want to comment, I think it's important, because if we're going to be successful at all as a committee, we're going to have a way to continue to elevate the voice. We have to have a way to elevate it. Because right now, there is no forum for our community members to share some of this information as we get. And if this is going to be the forum for that, it's not for us to just hold information. It's a place that we can elevate the voices, because this does say, according to how we've been organized, that we have the ability to at least move the information up to the state level. And until we can get enough voices that we have the power to elevate this conversation, we're really not doing a whole lot. And I think part of what we want to do, even though the way the charter is organized, you don't have to do anything but meet once a year. I think the commitment of this council at this point is not only to meet more than once a year, but to also have some results. So I support it, but I do think we need to be thoughtful on how we move it forward so that we can raise these issues so that it doesn't get forgotten. That this is not a done.
idea about correct that we were bringing forward and that we can track the difference and address. You know, it's great for Director Brown to be, you know, at every meeting giving out the email like that, encouraging people to send complaints this way. But you know, we really have very little idea of what all. And so this would be a way of having a better sense of what my conditions are out there. Again, you know, having a concrete record of that. So I like that idea. Somebody were to actually develop
Or ask the State Water Service Advisory Committee, do they have such a form already?
start there.
I wonder if that water service office has a form they use that would then be consistent with the city. I mean, I don't know, maybe, yeah, but there might be that might lend itself to having something else.
We should have a specific form for this Water Service Advisory Council. Because otherwise we're just handing it off.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I mean, that might be, maybe we'll get submitted at the same time, or we make it available at the same time.
Would someone like to volunteer to do that research? So we're talking about already has like the version of the
Yeah, I have to track down the name of the person, but the Eagle office.
I'm not sure who is that.
I think she's the environmental justice. Yes. Yes. All right then.
What you say again was Regina Strong.
okay. As far as follow-up, so
You need something formal in that regard, that we would recommend that his information find its way. But for this council member and say the like Brown or Public Works?
Sure.
I recommend both. Because they have,
No, but they're much more equipped to deal with mold, so I would bet. So I think that, public is information is relevant. All right.
And I think you bring up a great point. There's so many issues in this conversation that it's difficult to know where to go. And so maybe one of the things we could consider too is to try to figure out as these issues are coming, what's the right avenue? What's the right route to take to get some remedy to these issues? Because I think part of it's going to keep going along this route when you said it is. So it would be helpful to know what direction we could get in.
But like I would think the short of it, but whatever the staff, I don't know what kind of, like, what are they doing? Like, how are they talking? Just hearing that, I was,
Can't hear. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. I'll try to talk louder. So yeah, Naira made an excellent point, which is that we need to know more about how these employees at the water utility are being trained, particularly when it comes to interaction with residents. I think that's something we should put onto our agenda to follow up on later. I forgot to say earlier that Director Brown couldn't be here tonight because he had a scheduled conflict. Usually he would be here. And certainly he needs to hear that these kinds of things are being said to the residents. Kinds of being taken. Hopefully we can address that issue as well. Very.
It's just another issue because even if we said here 40% water loss is reported, but in either case, the response of the city officials was to keep doing that. Not we not a place for that. This is just more like the thing, like resident. Not a-
If there's no objection, I want to make sure we have time to talk water bills and affordability. So I think we should move on to new business. We have a guest here, our city treasurer, Amanda Trujillo, who's here to tell us a little bit about how water bills are calculated and to take any questions.
I just have one question before with the first speaker, when you guys were talking about water rates and how they were made. Was that what you guys were looking for? How water rates are calculated or how a water billing process works? Because I don't do the water rate.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Well, yeah, there may have been some slight miscommunication there. I realize now with the city, but we'd love to know
Okay.
how the bills work.
As a private water service, we have different ways that we can identify your service. If you're a resident or a commercial person that's coming in for service, you check your rates are different by if you have the size of your meter. So we have a standard size for 99% of the residential. Some of the larger homes, we have a 1-inch meter, and the rate
the service charge rates are different per meter size. So the larger the meter, more it's costly for your monthly service charge. The rate for your usage is the same for both residential and commercial. We have some residents, that are not, some businesses that are like sewer only, and some are water only. So then they only pay, that portion of your service charges, your service charges are broken down between water and sewer. So I just wanted to make that clear. So I mean, that would be the difference from the, so when we were talking about the water billing, or how the process works, we have to send out the crews to go get meter reads right now. And we're trying to change over to the new meter system, where we can read it from the website. And so that's what we're hoping. This is my little plug to get everyone to change over their meters, because it makes it more efficient for us. It makes it more efficient for the residents. There's an app for that also, that you can look at it and look at your usage every day, see what's going on with that. So, I mean, that's one of the big things that we're trying to push right now. We have like less than 4,000 meters left to go to change. And we have till the end of this year to do that. We're really trying to ramp that up, sending letters out. Any chance I get, I kind of talk about it just to get people to change their meter. I mean, it's very helpful. I was the very first one to change the meter, to get this new meter, because I just wanted to lead by example and, show it. I was the first one to get the app, and the app is really useful. When we were testing it out, I've seen usage on my house, and it's like, well, there's no one at my house right now. Why am I showing usage? Well, my sister happened to go over to my house to pick up some stuff, use the bathroom, and it recorded it where you could see that the meter had moved. I mean, so that's the kind of stuff that you can see with this app. So it's really very useful. You go on vacation, you'll be able to see that, that there's no water running or anything happened. It has a leak alert on it. So if you have a leak, it'll let you know. So it's something good. So you want to get those meters changed. So, okay. Yeah. So what we do is we send a file to the water service center to say, hey, we need these reads for a certain area. We do bill 8 residential cycles, and there's 1 commercial cycle. So back in the old days when we had to go out and read each house, we had to spread everything out. We had a number of people to go out to each house. So now we only have very few left. Like I said, 4,000 left that we need to change. So we still are on these cycles. So we send it out to the water service center and say, hey, these are the houses that we need reads on. So they'll go out there at specific times of the month. Everyone gets 12 bills a year. And the other ones that I have the smart meters, all right, we just go to the website, and the day we want to look at it, we grab all the reads and we put it into our system. So once we do put it into the system, we calculate those, we run reports, because we'll look to see if there are any, high bills, if we see anything that's leaking, anything that's a 0 bill. So we try and see if anyone, is vacant or on vacation. During like the fall time, people have lawn meters. So we'll check those in the fall to see if people stopped using them, so we can turn those off to the system. And like right now, people are starting to use them. So we're seeing the usage on the meter. And so we put it back into active status. So we look at all different things when we're reading that. We'll see if people have made payments on their account. And so if they have, then, obviously nobody gets a penalty, but if you haven't made a payment, then the penalty accrues, and that's at 0.5%. And penalties don't accrue until 30 days after the due date. So we do that, and then so once we calculate the penalties, they'll run some more reports just to verify that that they haven't missed anything. So like I said, we'll look for any high usages and stuff like that. We will also make sure, like when we're changing the meters, that we change them out, because some people have gone from a 1-inch meter down to a 5/8 inch meter because they don't need the larger meter anymore, and they still have enough pressure on the house to go down to lower, because it's about a $50-some difference from a 1-inch meter to a 5/8 inch meter. So if you don't need if you don't have a really large house and you can sustain the pressure in here, the water pressure, then you can go down to a 5/8 inch meter, and it'll save you money, like at least $50. And then once we get that out to, once we do the bills, we will send them to the printer.
he will send us proofs so we can look at all the bills to make sure that everything, the due dates are all correct. And then then we mail them out. So the bills will always be mailed out 15 days before the due date. And so this whole process from the time that we send get the read to the time the bills are due is 1 month. Or the time. And so we're always billing a month back. So if anybody had any questions on that? I guess I think we're a little bit.
How much is it if the person wants to, want to change?
They would come in here and then we would send out the foreman will go out there and check it out to verify that, that there will be adequate pressure in the house if we have reduced it down. Because some of the houses, some of these newer builds, they were automatically put a 1-inch meter in. And the houses are, I don't know, I think they're like 1,500 square feet. And there's only one bathroom and they do fine with just the one. Because they don't have a big hot water heater or something like that. So there is a cost to it. I'm not sure of the cost lately, but it's not much. But then, like I said, you'll make it up in the first month. And it's, I mean, even if you want to check it out, there's no cost for them to go out there and inspect it and see if it can be. I know a lot of the houses over here on Terrace Drive that we were built, they all have 1-inch meters. Some of them, I don't know how much percentage wise they reduced it down to 5/8 inch. It's a lot less.
Yeah, where's the app?
It's called Eye on Water. So if you go to the Play Store, and it's just let me see if I can find it. Like I got a new phone, so I'm not efficient with it yet here. It's just a little bit of a.
EYEI on
Yep.
I on water. And this is the first time I'm hearing about that. So I'm wondering how the word is getting out there.
I don't, right now, I mean, I know that when we were first doing it, I mean, when Vanguard was changing all the meters for us, they were trying to, put the word out for us too. I mean, and we have, like I said, anytime I've gone on the, oh, here it is. Oh, here, so you can see it's like, it's just a.
Okay.
And so, yep, and then I'll just have that and you log in. Yep, and then, so the account ID on your water bill. Water bill, probably remember it, there's your, on your front of your water bill, I don't know if it's on there, do you have a water bill on there? On that slide, I wasn't sure, but anyway, the account ID is right here on your water bill, because you have a location ID. There's two different accounts for you.
Okay.
On your water bill. So the location ID is what you use if you want to pay online.
Yeah.
And then the account ID is if you want to create your account for the Eye on Water.
Okay, so using the account ID, and
Yeah.
I'm just repeating that for people who are listening. So you would look at your water bill.
Yeah. And
Look at the account ID.
Yeah.
And then use that 6-digit number to create your account on the Eye on Water app.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they'll just ask you for that, your email address, and then you'll be all set to go.
Okay.
So that's something that seems like it ought to be prominently featured in the consumer confidence report that's going to go out in a couple of months. So maybe that's something that we
Yeah, but I would like to have that happen. I didn't look to see, like I said, I wasn't really sure what we was gonna have today. Because for the longest time, no one had signed up, and I know.
Well, I've never seen it. Like, I mean, I pay my water bill online and I've never seen it like anything like, hey, we got this app.
How long has the app been available?
Since the end of 2019. But then the pandemic happened, so.
Yeah, none of them, I mean, I'm just surprised between the community meetings and stuff, that we've never heard or seen it in any public place.
I'm trying to get everyone to use it.
Like, never heard of this before today. Today years old. Still seeing it.
It's been 2 years, and it's, like I said, it's very useful to us. And I'm glad I mentioned it then, because this is something that, these are the kind of things that anytime I go anywhere to present anything like this, like I've been on the mayor's radio show, I mention it all the time, change your meter, get the app.
I'm just wondering if at the help desk where people are getting filters and other water information,
Yeah.
are they engaging them proactively, saying, have you checked out this app? I mean, maybe there's a proactive way.
Well, and we did have someone that was creating a little flyer for us, so it would walk everyone through the steps, and then that person left, and then it kind of fell by the wayside. So, yeah, but that's something now because we're talking about it again with everyone here. Definitely want to get that rolling again.
I'm just gonna suggest, I think, because a lot of us maybe pay our water bill online, so as if you're creating a flyer, maybe they can also create something online, so then when you click on,
Right,
and
yeah,
put your
absolutely.
information, there's something else that comes up about this new app.
Yeah, okay. That's a great idea.
I'm wondering if the social service agencies that people are appealing to for help with their water bills, if people had that app and were trying to demonstrate what they owed and how far back they were, they could probably just pull it up and say, look, see, I'm behind. Whereas now they might have to bring a stack of paperwork and try to get calls to get certain pieces of paper. It would seem really efficient.
You know, people have signed up for account.
It's been a long time since I've looked. I know more and more people have, but I don't know the number. We have almost 30,000 water customers, and it's not nearly enough. We've changed 26,000. I know that's 26,000. I wish it was like.
So I have another question, if I can jump in. So you mentioned that you have fewer than 4,000 meters left to change, and you hope to get through those by the end of this year.
Correct.
At what point the city was not just threatening to shut people off, but actually shutting people off for failing to respond?
Yeah, that's we have to do that first.
And so that is still going on?
Yes.
Okay, can I ask how many homes have been shut off for that reason and how many are currently shut off? Do you know those numbers?
No, if I would have known, I would have been prepared for those
Yeah, I'm
questions.
sorry.
But it's been, I know that, I mean, it's been a couple hundred that we've turned off. I mean, and we turned it back on because there was only like, this would have been March when I got these figures. And there was like 4 people that we had not turned back on. And it's only because those homes were vacant. Everyone else we've gotten on mainly the same day. So most of the time, second day, but they've all been turned back on.
And in those cases, sort of, Larry, you want to jump in?
Oh, I'm just looking at this app. What is the service location postal code? Is that the address? Or is that the location ID? Top line zip code?
But that's what I was gonna say, zip code, that's what it sounds like.
I'll try it out.
And I'm sorry, Laura.
Well, I think I have a question in the same line as what you're going to say.
Okay, yeah, well, please go ahead.
So you've got 4,000 left to get there. Does that mean there's 4,000 people without their water on?
No, they still have their water on. We're sending out letters and we're going, like I said, we have the 8 residential cycles, so we're going cycle by cycle. And right now we're in the cycle that has like 900 that we have to change. So we're gonna be in that area that's on the website right now. And that's where we send out the letter. We're sending out like 100 a week. So that way we can have enough manpower to change them, to get people to call and to change them. And we will get more people calling. Like when I was on the mayor's radio show, I got people from all over the city call, except that area, unfortunately. But that's what we're trying to do, is just try and concentrate on one area, get everyone to change their meter, and we're setting up appointments. We haven't had any weekend requests yet, just later times, during the day, like up till we can change it up at 6 o'clock at night. I mean, we've had a lot. I mean, we've been, every day we're doing at least, well, every week we've done over 100 a week.
So at one point in time then, because I know that at one point in time, people lost their water service because they hadn't gotten.
I mean, we had one turn off today. And we turned them off and we got them back on.
What does that mean? So you say they turned off and then they went and got their new filter, meter, and then you turn them back on.
Yeah, they call us, we set up the appointment, so we just gotta be there so we can turn it, change the meter. We swap it out, turn the water back on.
So for those who have had their water turned off, who haven't contacted you, they still have their water, right?
Correct, they just need to call so that we can turn it back on, change the meter, turn it back on.
How long, how many attempts do you make to reach people before their water.
Well, we have made several attempts prior. Vanguard was the company, the vendor that was doing this for us, and they sent up to 8, either door hangers, letters, they knocked on the doors. So they sent at least 8 on most of them. And then we have sent out, a letter, and then we are sending out text messages now, and then we turn them off. We get, I think it's 2 weeks process, 2 to 3 weeks that we get before we turn it.
And do you charge to turn it back on?
If we turn it off, yes.
So if all of these people that have had it shut off because they don't have their new meter will have a charge before they get to turn it back on?
No, we'll turn it, we'll just put the charge on their bill. We'll turn it, because we want to get them back on. The whole goal of this is just to get the meters changed, not to try and make money off of anybody by turning them off. Definitely not. We just want to get the meters changed.
What's the reconnect cost?
75.
That's a good question. Oh, okay.
I had one other question. I realize you don't have the numbers in your head exactly, but can you characterize about how many residential connections there are and about how many folks are behind on their water? Just so we have some, like, just ballpark.
Yeah. There's just over 28,560 residential accounts, and that was as of May 2nd.
28,000?
Yeah.
Change.
So, yeah. And per the orders, if you're 60 days past due, you're considered delinquent. And I just ran that report last week, and it was over 10,000. But right now, I'm not working at that level. I'm looking at if you haven't paid in a year. That's where I'm at right now, trying to do turn-offs, getting people to pay.
So more than a third of the rate payer of the residential connections are behind.
Correct.
More than 60 days.
Correct. I just ran that last week. That's why those numbers are.
Okay. So that's helpful. It's it's a massive problem. It's not 10% or
Right.
12% or 11%. It's
Right.
33, third
Right. And
plus.
we're at about 75% residential at a collection rate of what we're getting.
So you said 75 collection.
Yeah. For residential.
Can I ask you to estimate, like, if the threat of water shutoffs was not an option for the utility, what would you estimate that for?
It would go down because during the pandemic when we could not turn off, I mean, people they didn't have to pay. And even though we kept emphasizing you're using it, you still need to pay, they stopped paying.
But can you put a number on that?
Oh yeah, we were down to 70%. So now that we're just starting to shut off, we started in January. And we can't do a lot because we're short staffed. So people are paid till they get their notice.
With the reinstitution of that shutoff threat, it's gone from 70 to 75% roughly collection rate.
And because it's 75% collection rate, there's still about a third. There's a portion of about 5% people that are more than a couple months behind, but they at least pay something. What is the minimum payment that?
So we always ask everyone if you're going to be behind in your bills to pay your current bill plus 10% of your gas bill balance.
Current bill plus 10% is the minimum that you guys.
That's what we ask. And some people can't pay it, and we understand.
You will accept less.
I mean, if your bill is $67.88 every month, if you pay $100 just to try and get it down, then that works. Not trying. We want people with water on. We just need people to help pay because it's we're owed altogether over $40 million in water.
And one other kind of confirmation with, some of the nonprofits have shared that the bills they're seeing, like Catholic Charities, because they can do some of the CARES Act dollars and so forth going back like 90 days, that the bills they're seeing are not $450 or $500. These are $4,000, $5,000, those kind of ranges for the majority of the bills.
Yeah, and that's what we're going after right now because they have been paid since prior to 2020.
So the reality is residents may owe more on their water bill than their property is worth, depending on where that property may or may not be, or at least equivalent. I mean, that's so substantial.
So the people who are going after right now have not paid in over a year. So that
Right.
at least goes up after you're paying, if you're using, your bill is 198 every month, after 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned, $40 million owed. Is that a combination of residential and commercial?
Yeah.
Or, okay,
But
everybody,
active and inactive. So
okay.
Are you able to estimate the breakdown there? Like what percentage of that 40 million is commercial? What percentage is?
I know that it's, the active account is like 23 million, I want to say, or maybe that's inactive, 28, something, so. Yeah.
Yeah, so we
So
could
you
like
also
follow.
look at that, like, the 23 detail, it's the home area residential versus.
Well, I can go by residential, and our largest residential cycle is on the west side that we're working on right now for the meter change. That's just the largest one that we have with the number of active accounts. The next one would be on the south side of the plant, southeast and southwest part of the plant, and the next largest number of active accounts. Pardon?
That are past due.
Let me see, I think, yes, the one on the, yeah, one on the west side, they have, and that's because they are the largest cycle. They have the largest number of active accounts, so they do have the largest number of delinquent accounts.
This has been very helpful. But I've been, what about the table of leases where landlord says he will pay the water bill and he doesn't? And there's renters, if they have no.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, if that situation happens, and it does happen, we usually send them to legal services so they can get assistance with them, because a lot of times they'll just call me up and say, hey, we have this, verbal agreement between the landlord and tenant. Can you turn it back on so we can, resolve this issue? We have done that.
And how many times you have managed 50 properties under handle that?
I guess, so if we turn them off, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, are we turning off the non-payment, or?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be the same situation. I mean, the tenant would need to just contact the owner and let them know, because if they have their receipts, and they can go to legal services and show that, hey, I've been paying my rent, here's my lease of business, that they're supposed to take care of the bill. Then a lot of times, I know, I shouldn't say a lot of times, a couple of times I know of where the tenant went over to legal services to get help. So they started paying their rent to legal services, and they put it in escrow, and they paid the bill that way.
You have that.
Not that I'm aware of at this moment, but yeah, we can get some.
That would be good.
I'm also wondering, it'd be very interesting to see what the trend is over time as far as water shutoffs are concerned. Do you have good data on that year by year going back a ways?
Oh, yeah, prior to the pandemic, we were at, 95 to 98% collection rate, and we were doing 300 non-pays a day. And right now,
300 shutoffs a day.
yeah, and so people would come in, and they see the red trucks out there, they'd come in and pay. So, I mean, we would, cancel a lot of the work orders because people come wanting in to pay. Right now, I can only do 30 a day. I don't have the manpower to do more than that. Because right now, I know I have 3,000 accounts that were eligible for me to turn off that have not paid in over a year.
So your aspiration, I assume, is to get back to that 95 to 98% collection rate, if you are able to make more use of shutoffs as a means of doing that.
I would just like to know that the residents would understand that, we're back to, you've got to start paying again. People got into that lull of not paying because of the pandemic. We're open. You can come in and pay. There's multiple ways to pay. You can mail it in. You can come in, do it online or over the phone.
Is there some way aside from shutting people's water off that we can bring that. I mean, I know that's not the only strategy that's used, but I mean, I know that we have a lot of people in this city who feel like water shutoffs are simply wrong, that shouldn't be a tool in the toolbox for collecting on water bills. And so, you know, at the same time, we understand that the city needs this revenue. So I'm wondering from your perspective, whether there's some kind of alternative to actually shutting people's water off entirely that might be viable in bringing this up.
In all my years here, I've never seen anything that worked, like shutting people off. I mean, we can send out letters, people ignore them. Now that we're sending text messages out, it's been very helpful because now people will look at that mail because a lot of people will just disregard it. But if anybody has an idea of what we can do, that would be great because we were talking about, like what I just said about changing the water rates and make it, you know, more achievable for everyone to pay. But I don't know how that would work, how we would get to that point.
This is just a somewhat personal question, but like, how long have you been working for the city?
Say 32 years.
Okay.
This is something we talked about the affordability. The senior savings check. $12 so if we talk about affordability, see, and I don't calculate those, but that's the service availability charge. That's what they use to maintain when we have main break. And, you know, when we're improving infrastructure, that's what that's used for. But that's the main thing that we have always talked about, reducing those down, because like I said, when you have a 1-inch meter, your charges just jump. And that to me is one of the things, like if you have a business here, you get charged higher rates too, because you usually have a larger meter. To me, that's such a distraction or detraction to come into the city and have a business here. And that's something I've always wanted to change.
Is it possible you can pay your current bill of 10% per month and not get that?
Absolutely, that's the whole point. It's just if you can pay that, you know, if someone, I had someone, little gentleman, he was just like, I only have $100. And he needed to pay 300. I said, pay me your 100. I'm not going to touch you if you're going to try. And he, every month he's been in, every year, every month he comes in and asks for me, I'm paying my $100. Okay, great, pay it. You know, that's what I need you to do. That's all I ask is just to be consistent. I mean, he can only afford $100. I mean, he really should be paying like 300. But you know, you pay what you can, and I'll be happy with that because I'd rather have him have his water on. And at least showing that he's making an effort because, like I said, our goal is never to turn off water. That is not our goal. We want people to have water, and we just need that everyone to, you know, do their fair share and pay for it. Because I pay that bill every month, so.
Come in for a sit down, agree on the accept the amendment.
I'm just wondering, because I know, like the mobile phone, they have a very good system that's automated. You had mentioned not having enough, you know, staff necessarily. So like for mobile phones, if you're, you know, not able to pay your bill on time, you know, they're able to say, you want to make a payment plan. And it's actually automated, you know, so you can just go and tell, you don't even have to need to talk to a human. You can set up a payment plan and then they'll even, you know, take the funds out of your, you know, out of your card, your bank account or whatnot. I'm just wondering, maybe that would like make it easier and motivate people to pay if they're able to set up some type of automated system, you know, as well with the 10% of the past bill, the current bill, or just, you know, a minimal amount that they can afford to show that they're making some progress.
Yeah, we have right now, we have a system called Point and Pay. And so they don't have that right now, but there's another company that I've been talking to. It's called Invoice Cloud. And they say that they've been able to, you know, do all these things, you know, because the Point and Pay you can't really see on your phone really well. But theirs is a phone app for theirs. So we're looking into doing that. I know that some of the other municipalities that we're talking about had a hard time with them. I don't know if it was growing pains at that time. But that's something we're definitely looking into because we're trying to get people to want to email their bills out to them because they'll save me postage. But that hurts too on my budget to pay all those bills that go out. So, but yes, we're definitely looking into that.
I want to acknowledge that we are almost at 7 o'clock here, which is officially the end of our meeting. First, we've got some other agenda items, and we may want to decide to table some of those for next time, but out of respect for our guests, I just want to ask if there are any last questions for Ms. Trujillo.
So I don't know.
Yes, I think that's the other piece that, we need to learn more about. And so who would be the right person
That would
to
be
invite?
Bob Whittigan, that's the CFO.
The
And
CFO.
just so you know, the rates have been the same since July or August of 2015. So they have not been changed since then.
Thank you very much for that information.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So, okay, thank you. I don't really need to be up here, I suppose, but I will at least try to talk about it. So, Nair, I was wondering if you wanted to revisit your motion from earlier that conversation. I mean, it would be great to have the CFO come in and tell us a little bit more about how that works. Do we want to hear them first, or just wondering what your thoughts are?
No, I mean, I don't feel like I need to wait till next month for this because I mean, I feel like sending a letter to the city council and the mayor is us taking a position. Because if we believe, I know that we can't make any decisions, but I feel like this body can definitely take positions on things. And it kind of formalized support that nobody's water should be shut off due to inability to pay. And we need to have like some sort of water affordability plan in place. It's not us designing what that's going to look like in implementation, but I feel like this is something that our city, as we're moving towards prosperity and making it a welcoming community, that we need to have.
Would you like to restate that?
Yeah, that was me editorializing. But
Question before we get to that point, and this is just because this is I think it's important. When I understood what we were appointed to do, it was about water quality, not about water affordability. Now, I'm not trying to completely parse all this out because I don't understand. One, I'd like to know if that's part of what we can do under the authority we're given, because I don't know if that's the case or not. Two, I think what was shared here secondly about the ability to be, I don't know that we've seen what the solution looks like, but we know affordability needs to be an issue that's addressed in a meaningful way. And that may include 4 or 5 different things. I'm not comfortable saying necessarily it should include the things that I'm not sure what are even part of the potential playbook, right, to help people. But I'm 100% confident that there needs to be a water affordability plan that's driven by residents. And I'm 100% comfortable with that. But what I'm not sure is about the other things, because honestly, I don't consider myself a subject matter expert in those spaces, even though I've been in some of those conversations. that would be all I would say regarding the wording of the motion might matter. And I also want to be sensitive to the fact that we're in a spot where we're in an election year where people are using things very much as political, like going back and forth. All you have to do is turn on and and this is not one person or another. It seems like people are taking certain things and really politicizing them. When the reality is what we're trying to do is get to a water affordability plan that the residents are driving, not provoke two different candidates or three different candidates from screaming at each other about water affordability based on what we may or may not say. I'll shut up after that.
Or as politicians might do, misstate their actual position. And the other issue is, will we still be appointed to the Water Service Advisory Committee? So this may not be the best time to do that. To adjust that.
Well, I guess like for me, like I never wait until it's politically expedient for action. And I guess, yeah, yeah. But
I was just gonna, because I see on the agenda that we had planned today, what's that priority setting? I would think that this could be potentially one of the subjects that we choose as a priority, depending on, if we determine that that is within the mandate that you mentioned, of the council. So instead of just, saying right now, we'll talk about this one, particular matter and submit a letter, I think we should look at it more holistically, as is that a priority that we as a council, decide to.
We're also
address.
out of compliance with the basic mandate in terms of the resident, non-resident mix right now, because of the resignation of our past chair. And then I just happen to be talking to Wendy Brown, who's not here, because her husband was on my board, and she suggested that she was also going to resign, which puts us like council needs to appoint more residents to this board because we're out of that compliance that the charter demands in terms of resident and non-resident representation.
So that was the issue that I wanted to address. We're jumping around maybe, but it's agenda now, but that's part of the time here, that there are some urgent matters that need to address, and that's one of them. And one of the things that I was going to raise for consideration today is the possibility that our non-resident members could shift over to being an advisor to the council.
Or we could abstain from the vote. That gives you, I don't know.
But that's something that has been proposed already. Folks who are like there's some openness to that idea of serving as that would that problem of not having 5% residents at the council on the council right now. The only reason why we're able to even have this meeting is that we have special permission from the city attorney's office to essentially be in violation of the charter for now, as long as the city is actively seeking to replace Cheryl. So if we lose Wendy, that it's only going to become more complicated. We're going to have to get 2 people on before we're back with the city charter, and I'm not sure how long legal is going to allow that. So we may not even be able to meet now. May as well, I suppose. I don't want to. We're not tabling this resolution by any means. We need to circle back around to that came up. It is something important that we need to address urgently.
So then being a non-resident member, I'm happy to step down or become a non-voting member or something like that, if that facilitates the committee.
I'm also happy to do that too, which would probably be required if you left. Assuming what it's not going to be. Yeah,
And I've heard also from Dr. Love that she's looking at that as well.
Yeah.
You know, another consideration is we're at 11 now. Losing our 3 non-resident members brings us down to 8. Assuming it's 20 as well, we're at 7. We have to have 7 people on the council. So, you know, we wouldn't be able to lose anybody else. And we would, the hope would be that there would be a proactive effort made to replace the folks that we have lost and perhaps expand the size of the council beyond that. But, you know, we don't really have a lot of control over that. Members of the council, we can try to make some kind of recommendation. That's kind of the predicament we're in as far as the composition.
would it let you move forward tonight if we both resign formally at the request of the group so you could make that? I mean, I'll come to every meeting. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, very hand is worth shaking.
I don't think having people resign right now is better, but what is there is when their eye brought up, and that is we can say, we are concerned about water quality and equally concerned about water is human right, affordable water. They don't, it's just a statement, right? But we have let folks know that we can't separate.
Can I add to that? Just, I know we're jumping around a lot, but I do not distinguish between water quality and access. That they are this, I mean, if anything that the whole water crisis taught us is that if we don't have a sustainable plan for the water system and the residents that live within that system, it's not going to work. And so we have to do both. So I don't think there's any problem with talking about affordability as being one of our major objectives.
Well, and even more narrow. I mean, water shutoffs affect water quality. When we don't have water running through pipes, that affects water quality. I'm frankly shocked by as far as how many shutoffs are happening today. 30 shutoffs a day right now. Freedom was 10 times that.
Yeah.
And it's only 30, 60 anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's only
that's-
because of
that can
staffing.
be good. For
And and to me, like, that's a crisis right there.
And the $75 turn on to
And
return
that
service.
is outrageous.
Why? I mean, what, is it so that you don't have to have your water turned on too many times? So we're gonna charge you to bring it back on again? I mean, I just don't understand.
it was prior, like 150 or
Yeah.
there was, it was significantly more prior to the, well, prior to the pandemic, and they lowered it. I know.
But then you got to flush out your pipes, then you can spend.
That's our concerns are quality, access, affordability.
I agree totally with this point that, I mean, even, yes, if you look at the state law, it's very water quality centric. I mean, I think there's a little bit of wiggle room in there, but it's very much focused on water quality. And beyond that, I mean, it's very much focused on lead. And we've already said that, we're not just here to talk about lead.
And just because of my job, like, I've seen how these water system advisory councils have been created in for other community water systems. And, and some of them, it is their current board. It is like, like, and then they just kind of attack on. And I think like the state is still trying to figure out like what they want this to be. And, like, but for me, I'm like, we need, like just the people who I report to, report back to, which is the Flint community. Like, this is an opportunity for us to take a position. Like, we know that this is an advisory, that we don't have any decision-making power, but we have like our collective stance and showing that, like, look, this is an issue. we shouldn't be living in a community where 300 shut-offs a day is normal and nobody's blinking about it because people can't pay their water bills. You know, so I think that this is an opportunity for us to, you know, stand together in solidarity with residents.
And I don't really care if we're not compliant. I mean, I think about what color the water is in my neighborhood. It's not in compliance. I mean, in my mind, for us to reorganize ourselves, for us to, on an official level, divorce our technical expertise so that we are in compliance, it seems like I just can't think of anything more ridiculous. And
Yeah.
so what? We have a group of people who have committed to this thing.
For 7 years.
For a while now, right? And we can't make rules, we can't make laws, we can't make policy, we can't ask, but we can't enforce anything. So being out of compliance doesn't, we don't lose any power, we don't have much anyway. And if we have members of our group who can add to our argument in the ways in which the water technically, scientifically is unsound, I think that makes our argument stronger. So personally, I mean, I would make a motion that I don't care, but I'm not.
Is that a second?
Second. Oh, I would say a formal, going back to our thing, I know we're dialoguing, we're loosey-goosey with the Robert's rules. I don't like Robert's rules, but, but I would say a more formal motion is that we draft a letter in support of water affordability for the city of Flint.
Water affordability and accessibility.
And accessibility. I mean, it's all the same to me,
We
but
want to include resident-led. Like, because I like what was recommended is that the city needs a water affordability plan. Is that how you described it? Like, I would say this, I feel totally comfortable saying that we would recommend that the city engage in a water affordability, a resident-driven water affordability plan. I would completely support that. Where I would have concerns were around identifying some specific, like a whole list of specific things that we might not understand if they really are legitimate remedies for the situation. I think there should be, that whole concern supporting that recommendation, right?
I don't think we're not getting into the weeds with this recommendation.
yeah.
That was really important.
Well, we as a body want to support an effort to develop a resident-led water affordability plan. And we want to formally oppose also the practice of water shutoffs as means of bringing in revenue. So it's your intention that you're right to have both of those incorporated.
Yeah.
I know I see multiple people who would like to second that. I can't remember if you didn't state it.
Oh, well, I would say like what's the friendly amendment? With your friendly amendment. Multiple seconds.
I was support.
All right, so who wants to volunteer for that? Draft a letter. We're gonna need at least
I'll be part of the team since it was my interview.
It doesn't just have to be, I mean, the difficulty is that under the Meetings Act, we can only technically have talking about this stuff outside of the public meeting. So I think that means it's going to be the two of you. Let's see if we can find some way around that for now. So we will look forward then to hearing back about that
The next
meeting
meeting.
as far as update.
Just a suggestion, just to maybe add some structure, remember we have the subcommittees as well. This sounds like something that would fall under the communication team as well, so maybe somehow it can be.
Yeah, I'm not part
incorporated
of the
into-
subcommittee.
No, I know, but
Oh, yeah.
maybe somehow when we talk, if that's gonna be like standing agenda points, or we have those regular meetings, if that's something that could be incorporated. So it's, like a standing, because I perceive that once we do this, there's gonna be hopefully some action, or they might push it back onto us to say, well, can you come up with a plan? Can you work with us to draft a plan or something like that? I would hope that that letter is not just a standalone and then nothing happens. I hope that there's some after action that we can put us with.
So, yeah, I mean, as far as the subcommittees go, that was touch upon. At the last meeting, as those, whether it makes sense to have subcommittee at all at this point. It's going to be hard to make that work. If the city was going to develop some kind of informational events that are around water quality report that's going to get sent out, there was some talk of doing that. We could potentially support or advise or something like that. But as far as developing our own meeting or our own events, from scratch, we're not. So, I think that as of right now, we've got our bylaws subcommittee, Gina and myself, and we still haven't adopted conversation that we're still chipping away at. We've got I don't know if we want to call this a water portability / shut off committee, but we could also just treat it as being part of a subcommittee, although I'm not sure what that is exactly at this point, since we're not. So, but I don't know that we necessarily need to pin that down exactly right now, as long as people know what they need to do. As far as our other agenda items, doing a quick time check here, it is 7:71. As I mentioned earlier, couldn't get some of the usual suspects to join us tonight. So we got this. That's perhaps we got a few things done. But I did just want to share a little bit of information. And then if there are any questions, we can follow up on them next time. So I did ask Director Brown about the status of blending. And this was his response to me about that. So I'm just quoting from the email that he sent to me. He says, the city was successful with the retrofit to the Gliwa pipeline and valves for better control. The city successfully went back to taking 500,000 gallons per day from GCDC and the rest from Gliwa that the city needs. At 10 million gallons per day, that would be 95% Gliwa, 5% GCDC. And here we hope to stay. So that was his update. That's what I know. I don't know if anybody wanted to follow up questions that could be passed along to Director Brown, followed up on.
I have a question, and I apologize if it was covered at a previous meeting. So how much is the city paying for that 5% from Kirigati Water Authority? Since it's like here to stay and it's going to be a permanent blend, like, is there a charge? What's the charge? What's the exchange for that? Like, is it part of like that contract for to stop the city from going bankrupt? Like, I don't know what it is.
Of this.
it has to be done that way. So this is secondary.
This is a good thing. Have it back there.
And we
I
are a
rem-
secondary source for,
I just remember like way back before we switched to the Flint River, like the city of Flint, like the city of Flint was the secondary source for the county. And the county gave the city of Flint $1 million a year for that service. And I want to know what is the charge
Good question.
to Kirigani for this service of this permanent blend?
because, we are a backup to Gliwa, I think. As I recall,
Doesn't Lewer make $7 million a year payments? I thought there was some kind of payment
Yeah, there
plan
was
going
like,
back from Leewood to the county.
yeah, and it,
It'd be helpful to know.
mhm.
right,
Are there any other questions you want to ask along about that issue? If you think of anything else
I hate to be broken, right?
And in previous meetings, we asked for monthly updates on water quality. And I know we received them once, but I would then suggest that's a standing item that we review.
even if you can't be attended.
And
Yeah.
Sean, as far as what is should be included in those updates, I remember.
Can I email you the list? 'Cause
Yeah,
I've done it before, I'll do it again.
But that's okay. So speaking of water quality, I did also get an email from, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right. It's Laura Gassio at HHS. And I'm just going to quote from her bullet points that she sent me here. So this is in reference to the sampling that MDHHS has been doing since the institution of the blending. We've got a couple of meetings. And the update is that all fully processed results. MDHHS team is processing results from sampling events 11 and 12. The lab is processing samples from event 13, which was the last sampling event for the secondary water source project. Quarterly water testing starts in May and will continue for the year. And DHHS will be presenting at the Flint Water Forum 17. So as you may have heard, tomorrow evening, there's going to be a water infrastructure forum with updates about all this stuff. It's going to be virtual. So the city on that, there should be a link in circulation. Social media. So while back, Carol and myself, if one of us wanted to speak, say a few words about the Water System Advisory Council. So, we said, for sure, if you want to give us 5 minutes, will be an opportunity to explain what this group is, what it's on it, all of that. So I was imagining that Cheryl was going to be the one doing that. Obviously, Cheryl is gone. So as acting chair, the spiel tomorrow evening on the Water System Advisory Council. I don't know if anybody has any about that or emphasizing. Yes.
I'd recommend try to recruit people to join the board.
Well, yeah, I don't really know how to chime in here. Like, as far as bringing new people in, obviously, you don't really have any control over that. Joining the council.
So I think there is an opportunity to expand the impact the Washington Advisory Council email to just give that out, and handles recommendations over to me, then I'd be able to there. Slash.
But we need to have, I guess, I think I would feel more knowing what exactly the criteria are. I know of one person applied, expressed being on the council and was turned down. So, I guess, and I'm wondering, like, what criteria are being used in that case to determine who should and should not be on. Okay. That would be helpful, because if I am going to invite people to express an interest in that way, I want to be able to say to them that they're judged fairly. In this case, the individual in question was concerned that it was a political motivation that was keeping him off the council. We don't want to be associated with that. I don't know what the rationale was. Don't make any conclusions about that, but we want to make it really clear that we are an independent body. So, again, I really only feel comfortable with that should people apply, they are going to be seriously and fairly considered.
One other option may be that is going to moderate. So there may be an option there for her to extend that invite.
Sure. Okay.
And just to clarify, because I guess our audience on YouTube, Wendy Braun does not plan on resigning. She plans on staying.
Oh,
So Wendy watching, and yeah, exactly, a few minutes ago. And I want to say that, I want to project that. So, because
Wendy's not resigning.
Forward to joining us at our next meeting.
Okay, so I think that they're looking at the agenda here. We've lost thread a little bit here, but I was hoping that we might have a broader conversation about sort of what's next for the council. Last time we spent a little bit of time considering the consumer confidence report document. The city's in the process of finalizing the latest version of that, and that's going to start going out soon. There were a couple of people who sent comments indirectly to Director Brown. Supposedly, they're taking those into consideration, and they're wanting to do everything. Like they want the state's permission to make these modifications to the document. So that's just the process that they're kind of insisting on. So I don't know exactly what's actually made it in the way of changes, but it's just a start. We're not going to be able to do much of a dent in this version of the CCR, but we are collecting, I think, some really good comments about the weaknesses of that document. And again, these are going to start going out every 6 months in the near future. And so we're going to have more opportunities to kind of gather those comments together. And I think really some more thoroughgoing revisions to that document or to suggest them anyway moving forward. So, I don't want to prolong things too much here, but given that it's just me at this point who's drafting up these agendas, which is something I don't feel totally comfortable with. I mean, at least had Cheryl to converse with about this so recently. I would like to get some sense about where we want to next meeting, which we also need to try and schedule real quick. Do we want to have a presentation from the CFO, as was suggested earlier, and learn more about the rate setting? Would that be a productive direction? Some other priority that we want to put on the front burner for our next meeting?
Well, we still have the issue of contacting Regina Strong, EJ advocate, get all the information regarding what other forms are being used,
If any.
if any, so we can fully inform participants. I agree.
Well, I wonder if it might also be good to know kind of what's going on at the state level in general with respect to these water advisory councils. I mean, we have a state drinking water advisory council now, so it's the state version of what we're doing here. Look at the letter of the law that we're operating under. One of the things we're supposed to do is communicate with that state council around what it's trying to do and lift up some of our local concerns. We really haven't done so. That's another thing.
Yeah, I mean, they have they're meeting, and I'm not sure, like, I think I saw like at one of their meetings, they had like one of the council speak as part of a presentation, but I'm not sure like what they're doing beyond that. Because I attend them like when I can, like virtual, they're virtual.
So I could look into both of those angles for the next meeting, maybe getting some representative of that state council as well as getting CFO in here to talk more about the financial side. Unless there's any objection or question.
Well, this came up in the last meeting, came up the other day about being clear about the water process, where we're getting it from, so I think that should be something included. I also suggest talk about communication. On the last, in the last meeting, we talked about are there resources available on the city to help with this communication.
So, okay, I'm glad you reminded me of that. So, we don't have a single dollar allotted to us. Obviously, we're all volunteers, but the council itself doesn't have a single dollar as far as I know, copies, of documents. Obviously, our city staff are stretched pretty thin. We really appreciate everything Donna does for us. But Donna, we know we have a lot of work. So, having help with some of the logistics of all of this, with facilitation, with communication, welcome. So I wanted to tell folks that I had a meeting with Diane Russell from the EPA the other day, and Diane wanted to offer the possibility that EPA help to serve some of that assistance. They do have some resources floating around. She mentioned, for example, the possibility of having somebody set up a website for us or help in other ways to get the word out, because we're not, let's be honest, doing a great job of that thus far. I mean, thankfully tonight we at least have the YouTube video, although it sounds like it's been pretty difficult to follow at times for people who are tuning in that way. And so that's pretty far from ideal. I mean, I think we're getting some good information at these meetings. We need to find better ways of pushing it out to the community. And so Diane has put it in a kind of request on our behalf versus scrounge up on the EPA side. So hopefully there'll be more to say about that next time. But I do think we all need to be thinking about how to increase our profile. This is a council that people should know about, that people should feel is accessible, Um, Publicizing our meetings has been, something of a challenge as well. So just getting the word out to social networks. One of the things I was doing today was I was developing kind of a best practice document around each meeting. We need to make sure we do this, in order to ensure that the word is getting out and that all of our ducks are. So it would be great to have help on my end with all of that. So technically, we should have a chair, not just an acting chair, but a chair and a vice chair, a couple of people working on that. So again, just want to put that out there. That certainly could help me because doing all the logistics is a lot of work. So if anybody's interested in stepping forward and volunteering for that would be appreciated. Obviously, if we're able to bring more people on in the near future, that's going to change the dynamic a little bit, and we'll have some other options. Yvonne, I feel like that's a deeper conversation, like fleshing out. Okay, all right. Great. So that was again something I was hoping we'd have time to talk a little bit. Is there anything else? Shall we talk about our next meeting? Looking ahead to you. I'm leaving town on the 18th. That's my main limitation.
June.
I'm leaving on the 18th of June. But if we were to meet that early that week, say the 13th, we need to double check that. Tiana, I don't know. Want to try and schedule ourselves so that we're not overlapping with the city council.
Talking about the June 13th is the date you're looking at.
Yeah.
Should we hold that date?
You can hold it. And, honestly, we're going to need to come up with some other method live streaming if we can. I'm just worried that for folks who are tuning in online, they're not, it's meeting isn't accessible. I'm not in that medium at this point. So even if we do overlap with city council and we're not able to use that YouTube channel, maybe we can figure something else. So that's, if anybody has any suggestions for that.
Does the city use Paul Hearing anymore to broadcast different meetings? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a cost probably there, and I don't know who would bear the cost. Oh, I said, does the city use Paul Hearing to kind of broadcast stuff in a more, professional, community-friendly way, like what we're using YouTube channel? Is that some way a possibility? But obviously there would be a cost. There'd have to be more than something.
But that's another thing that, depending on what we hear back from the EPA, they could
I just wanted to share one other thing. The new council does have press release scheduled.
Of course it does. Okay.
Then we can start at 3 a.m.
It just
I am not able to meet on the 6th. Good. How about, I was gonna say, let's see. I was gonna say the 14th, but with the 14th, so that's a Tuesday. I'm not usually able to be on 14th. I'm sorry.
Is there any?
On Tuesday, we were having an issue with the planning. But again, if we can figure out some other way, broadcast that would be nice.
Maybe the ECA. Maybe the EPA will allow us to meet it there.
That's a thought. I mean, so we're back in here today. Rosa Parks turned out to be very small. The ability to spread out. I was thinking maybe we could meet in a place like this, Empowerment Village, but if we don't have money to pay them for doing stuff, that's not. So it's got to be a public space. Got to be big enough to spread out. It's got to be accessible. So that's the challenge.
Library.
That's what I was thinking. Is we could try it out. See how that goes. Is everybody comfortable with that? I think that that's it for now. So we're blocking out that Tuesday, June 14th from 5:37. And if that needs to change for any reason, you'll be hearing from me. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Right.
Good seeing everybody.
Thank you so
for
much for
having
coming.
me. Yeah, I'll be back at the next meeting. Yeah, to make another public comment.
Thank you.